Welcome, everybody, to the Overdue Review of Mafia, the Definitive Edition. It's kind of hard to say. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done one of these because I haven't finished the game in a while. Been working on it. This game, I didn't think was going to be that long, and technically it's not. It just took a while to film the whole damn thing. I think there are 20 parts in total. And, of course, I've been playing it with my lovely wife, Jo. But the campaign's not that long. I didn't think it was going to take 20 parts. Like, what other games was I playing? Alan Wake. I think they're around the same total time, I think. And Alan Wake isn't going to take 20 parts to finish. At least I hope to God not. But I don't know. So, let me get my head on straight for a second. So, Mafia the Definitive Edition is a remake, not a remaster, of the original Mafia game. A remaster would be if they just took the old game and then made it look prettier, but it would still be blocky as hell. So the original came out in like 2002, 2003 on the PC, and then got ported to the Xbox later. And the Xbox version actually looks better. And this is a remake of it, with some things being changed, some things not. One of those changes being they have cover shooting now, which I'm almost positive, though I never played the original, is not in the original because cover shooting would become a pretty big mechanic that would show up, popularized by Gears of War, but I think showed up in like there was one third-person shooter that had it. There were some variations of it that existed, like Splinter Cell I think had a cover mechanic earlier, but I'm not real sure. But there was a third-person shooter that had it, and I can't remember what it was, but it did have it. I just can't remember what it was, but it was like a year or so before Gears of War. Rainbow Six also had a cover system, but I think that was the same time around Gears of War. But the cover shooting was popularized by the Gears of War series. I can't talk today. Yeah, but that's been added to make the gunplay better. I don't know if it is better because the gunplay in this game is kind of interesting. Now you can go into your options and your settings and you can select whether you want to like snap onto people, but even then the shooting's kind of weird. It's both incredibly like realistic and not. Whereas you can headshot someone and they go down, they just slump down. But you can also put like 40 bullets into someone's chest and they just shake it off, which is kind of it's not really that realistic. And I played on both the classic difficulty, which is the difficulty of the original game, and then the regular, just because it got too hard at one point in time, mainly with the driving stuff, which I'll touch on that here in a second. So the game wasn't. It's weird. It's good. I think it's a hell of a remake. I think it's a fun game to play. And while I did enjoy the story, though, the story was kind of weird. And maybe because I had to break it up. But even if I wasn't making videos in it, I still would have had to break it up over time, just because I go to work during the day. Wasn't as impactful as I thought it was going to be. The ending was kind of anticlimactic. Like, it kind of just ends. And though there is a definitive end and stuff, it's weird. It's the only way I can put it. It's weird. Like, you get to the last level, and I knew it was the last level. My neck is freaking killing me. And I knew it was the last level, but it felt like they had so much to wrap up, and they wrap it up like that. And so, oh wow. And it's all in a cutscene. And then there's a weird tie-in to the second game, which I don't think is in the original. It might be, but I don't remember the two Mafia games being that connected, because they switched studios in between. Hangar 13 would then make Mafia 2, and I believe the original was made by someone else. Wasn't Looking Glass. Looking Glass, that's the System Shock guys. But it was a different studio than Hangar 13. Hangar 13 now has the Mafia rights. Might be some of the same guys, but I know it's a different studio. The remake looks beautiful. Played it on the base PS4. but there are a lot of glitches. A lot of glitches. Nothing on Avengers level. No, this game was actually done, but a lot of ones that might bother you. The lip syncing kind of getting weird at times. Guns disappearing, so where you're just doing this almost quite literally to people, which is hilarious, but the game is very, very serious, so it's not exactly the intended outcome. It's not what you want. And one of the biggest issues was a lot of screen tearing. I don't know if this gets better on the PS4. I don't know if it plays better on the next gen consoles or on PC. So I don't know if it was just a hardware problem or if it was just the game not running well. Period. Because as I've heard about the remaster of Mafia 2, it has issues, a lot of issues, so much so that people have just said, just go get Mafia 2 on the 360 and play it. It's much better. And I knew Mafia 3 had a lot of issues. I don't know if the remaster, whatever the hell that means for a game that came out this generation, I don't know if it fixes any of those issues with Mafia 3, but if those problems still exist in 2, I'm going to assume they probably still exist in 3. Because 3 had so many problems, I'd stop playing it. I'm a fan of this series, but I've never beaten any of the games. I never played the first one. I wasn't able to. I always saw it, but I just never picked it up. I was always focused on something else. I played Mafia 2, never beat it, because I only had the demo. But I played the shit out of that demo. Played the hell out of that demo disc. Was just never able to get my hands on a copy of the game. And Mafia 3, I really wanted to play, was really excited for. Got about 4 hours into it, stopped, because the game was giving me a headache because of the graphical glitches. There was a texture glitch that would not stop that was giving me migraines. And there's nothing you can do about that. Like, I can't. It's not something I can look past because the game is literally putting me in pain. Thankfully, this doesn't have that problem. The screen tearing, if it happens enough, might give you a migraine, but other than that was kind of few and far between. The other issues with the game have to do with the game itself. I have no idea if this is because of it being a remake of an older game and some of these things just not holding up, or if these were new things. All the stealth in the game is terrible. You don't really have any other way to defend yourself stealthily other than running up to people and knocking them out. But you get seen, it's instant game over. It's annoying as hell, and it sucks. It reeks of something from 2003. So that could be the blame there. But there are too many stealth missions, including, like, it's not the last mission, but it's one of the last missions is a big stealth mission, and it sucks. It's not that long of a mission. Like, point to point, the mission might last 15 minutes. But the video I recorded of it was over an hour long. And I didn't even finish the whole mission. I thought the mission had ended and it, like, picked up immediately. Some games do that. No, I had never finished the mission. There was a black screen in the middle, so I thought it was over. It just didn't do a title. No, the mission wasn't done. I would then complete the mission in the next video, which was just walking someone to a destination that wasn't that hard. But the actual bulk of the gameplay took over an hour to do, even though it was search one warehouse. It's because I kept failing over and over and over and over and over again for stuff that both was and wasn't my fault. And it was frustrating. I like stealth games. Splinter Cell, Thief, Metal Gear Solid. Though the last one wasn't really a stealth game. You could play it stealth, but it was kind of a do whatever the hell you wanted game. And I mean mainline. I'm not talking about that survive bullshit. It's not that I'm bad at stealth. The stealth in this game isn't good. You don't get a knife. You don't get any way to defend yourself. You just kind of have to sit there and wait. Which can work. Sitting and waiting can work. And that building that tension can be fun. Like in Thief, there is a lot of sitting and waiting in Thief. Here's the problem. The sitting and waiting in this game sucks. It's boring. I was bored. If your stealth game has you being bored, it's failed. Because you can be doing nothing physically, but still have that tension, that fear, that, oh God, and then that constant planning, where do I go next, what do I do? And have it be fun, enjoyable. This game didn't have it. And I don't know if that's just a me complaint or if this is something that everybody has, but the stealth is bad. Thankfully, despite it being like 3 or 4 missions, most of the game is not that. Most of the game is you go do a mission, it's either you fight this guy or you have to rough him up or you go shoot stuff. The parts of the game that aren't shooting, though, aren't great. The roughing people up stuff, I didn't like, but there's only like one of those missions, so that was fine. The going to, there's one mission we have to set a car bomb. The ending to it was climactic and impactful, but the actual mission was, I literally walked to a car, put a bomb on it, and waited at a phone booth. Wasn't really that great. But they wanted to tell a story, and the story is good. But you have to have a really good balance of that story and gameplay. If you have really, really bad gameplay, even if the story is great, most people aren't going to get to it because of the bad gameplay. Unless it's something like a Silent Hill where it uses that to its benefit. Where it's like, oh, the fighting sucks, but you're not supposed to fight. You're supposed to get the hell out of here. It's Silent Hill. Everything sucks because everything sucks in Silent Hill. Or something like Pathologic, which the objective of the game is to beat the shit out of you and make you stop playing it. So when you proceed, when you succeed through playing it, it feels like you accomplished something. But that is also something that's very hard to do, because if you don't do it right, and I mean 100% right, there's no leeway. You either do it right or you don't. It becomes... what's the word? Just bad, annoying, horrible. I don't want to play this. It's a fine line. And Mafia kind of doesn't straddle that line very well in the boring parts or in the bad gameplay parts. But when you're in the middle of a shootout, all the talking, the back and forth, the screaming, the voice acting is fantastic. The story is great. But in the shootouts, when the controls work, it's not that controls are bad or unresponsive, it's just that the shooting takes some time to get used to, but you're never shooting long enough that it feels that you ever really get a hang of it. And while there are big shootouts, there's not a lot of impact to those shootouts. And it sounds like I'm shitting all over this game. I'm not. I recommend it. If you have the ability to play it. And for the amount of work they put into it, I think it's worth $60. Though I believe they're only selling it for $40, so that's pretty great. I got it through Gamefly, who still offers an amazing service despite the USPS being gutted. It's still a great service to get many of the great games, especially if you love physical stuff. And they also offer great discounts, pick stuff up. I'm not sponsored by them in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I wish I was, because I love them. But that's how I got it. And I didn't feel ripped off. I didn't immediately send it back like I did with Fast and Furious Crossroads. And I do think it's worth its price. But the things they changed to it, while they may have improved the original game, it doesn't feel like they've changed enough. Especially with the gunplay. Though the way to play the game, like the absolute way, is with the snap aiming. That makes it much better. But the problem is guys range from being able to... being one-shot kills or bullet sponges. If you nail that headshot, and you can take people out like that. But if you can't, they'll take a lot of shots. And it's hard to tell if you're actually hitting them or if you're just missing shots. Because you can understand if you're just missing shots, which you can. The problem is you're hitting people and you see blood coming out and they're just not going down. I unloaded a whole freaking magazine of this Tommy gun and they're just not going down. That's not fun. And it's frustrating, especially when you're just unloading, and then you get hit by a Molotov cocktail. Which sucks. Your enemies also seem to have more weapons than you do. Those Molotov cocktails and grenades, they seem to throw at you all the time. But you only ever have a few missions where you have Molotov cocktails or grenades at your disposal. And speaking of weapons at your disposal, not very many. Are there some things you can pick up level to level? Your main gun is your pistol, a 1911. Which, a good pistol. And I found myself switching to it all the time. And not because it's a good gun. In real life, it's a great gun. But not because in this game it's like the best gun ever. It's because usually it's all I had ammo for. Like there was an abundance of pistol ammo, so I used pistol ammo. I would save my bigger guns for interactions that needed it. Or I was using it because I ran out of ammo. Ammo for the other weapons that are actually quite fun to use, like a shotgun. It's a close range weapon, which, just like it is in real life, you need to use it in close range. You can't snipe people with it. This isn't Call of Duty. But when you get in that close range, that medium to close range, it works like a 12 gauge shotgun, and it hits the hell out of people. The problem is I do think you can miss a little bit too easy with it, but it still works. But you only have about as much ammo as you got when you picked it up. So if the shotgun only had three rounds in it, 3 shells, that's all you have. So unless you run across someone else who's using a shotgun against you, or find one of the rare ammo supplies, that's all the shotgun fun you get to have. Later in the game, these guns start popping up a little bit more often, but not as often as I would hope. One of the guns that I really wanted to pop up all the time, but just didn't, was I'm not sure what it was. It was a bolt-action rifle. And the reason I wanted it is because it's long range, and it's usually a one-shot kill. 1 or 2 shots. And that was really important, considering that every time I'd shoot, there was so much damn recoil, I would go all over the place. So with those, I really wanted them. I think I only used it twice in the entire game, so the 8 to 11 hours that we played, because I just never ran across it. Which is a problem, because it worked. The other problem was the ammo scarcity. So I ran across the rifle twice, and both times it only had about 2 or 3 shots in it, which sucked. There's pistol ammo everywhere. But the second most common gun, other than the pistol, which you start off with, and then other pistols, which the police usually carried some sort of revolver. I think it's like a snub-nose revolver, or just a I don't know what the term for it is, like field revolver, something like that. I didn't use it much, so I can't tell if it was better or worse. Oh, one other revolver that showed up like the very last mission. Didn't even know it was a gun until some dude tried to shoot me with it, and I killed him. I'm like, that gun looks different. Magnum, 1-shot kills. It was great. I don't know if it was only available in that level, or if it'd been there the whole time and I just never got it. It was great. Wish you'd have been to the game more often. But that type of gun I can understand being limited, because that was man killer. But the other guns, I don't understand why they were so limited. And on higher difficulties, yes, ammo was scarce. And on classic, what I liked is if you reloaded after taking 2 shots, you lost all the ammo in your magazine. And I like shit like that. Though, it didn't happen all the time. There's something weird about that, is I was expecting, like, oh no, I only shot once and I reloaded, so I'm expecting to lose 6 bullets. And I'm counting because it tells me how many bullets I have altogether. And then he reloads, and it was the same amount as I would have had if he kept those 6 rounds. So only 1 round disappeared. Instead of what should have been, I should have just lost 6 rounds. So it was very, very, what do you call it? Intermittent, or it was infrequent. Just, it, like, there's, that works in Dead Space. I believe there's a mechanic like that in either the first or the second one. Might be both. I never played third, so I can't speak to that. On one of the harder difficulties, where if you reload, that's all you got. You'll throw away the ammo you have in your magazine. I believe it's Dead Space, and I like stuff like that. I like realism. It maybe not the best way to first play a game, but I think that is fantastic to play on later run-throughs. And in some games, it works really well playing through it the first time, like The Last of Us. I really like that. But it has to be incorporated into the game well. This kind of wasn't, because even with that classic difficulty mode, enemies were still bullet sponges, but then weren't. Which, that aggravates me. They can either take all the shots in the world, or they can take 1 shot, and that was like that across all difficulties. So I don't know what the hell was going on. But all in all, combat was kind of fun. Another thing that I actually took a lot of joy out of was the driving and the chases. There are too many chases than there should be, but you could get some fun out of it. The problem was cops just either would leave you alone immediately or would never leave you alone. to a point that didn't make sense. And the cars fall apart all the time. And on Classic, you have Classic controls, which you can have manual transmission, but I could turn that off sometimes. When making video, I found it was easier just to have the automatic transmission. But I did play a lot of it with the manual, and I like that. It just feels good on the controller. It takes a little bit more strategy to drive that way. But these old cars drive like shit. They also don't drive very fast. And the problem was that the police seem to be able to outrun you all the time and just crash into you and cause problems, which can be fun. Some of the most fun I've had in video games is running from the police, like in GTA. Running from the GTA cops is crazy. I believe the best is in GTA 4 because of the way the physics work. I love GTA 4's physics. The driving needs some work. I'm not going to defend the driving, though I do kind of like it, but I didn't like it because of the controls. I liked it because of the physics. If you crashed, you reacted, the game reacted like it would if you crashed in real life. GTA 5 got a little bit too arcadey and I didn't like it. But I liked getting a high-speed chase, which would only be about 70 miles an hour, and hitting a light pole or a railroad tie or something and just going through the windshield. I love that shit. Because now you had to think about driving instead of just plowing through everything. This doesn't have that level of realism. It just has the, for whatever reason, I can only go 35 miles an hour, but the cops can go 80 and he T-bones me and my car explodes. That wasn't very fun. So when I go back to regular, it made the driving a little bit better, but then could make it either too easy, but then would still be too hard at points. But that would be based on the level design or the AI, who just refuses to get in the fucking car. When there's only one car that we get into, we're surrounded by police. We can't fight them for whatever reason, and we just get slaughtered because I'm sitting in the car waiting for him to get into the damn hearse, and there are 40 police officers shooting us, and then I get killed by the time he closes the door and allows me to take off. That wasn't fun. That sucked. And then when we got into the actual driving, since the car was so shot up, it controlled like absolute shit, and we didn't have time to ditch it and go for another one. It was bad. It was just really bad. But not as bad as the race that's in the game. So the original Mafia is infamous in the gaming world for one reason only. Very early on, I always thought it was midway, but it's not. It's early on in the game. You have to race. You go to the track, the driver gets hurt or whatever, and you have to become the driver. Doesn't sound like that big of a deal. It sounds like something fun just to stir things up. And it could be, except for whatever reason, it is the hardest race in video game history. And I was playing on Classic, and it was impossible. If you got passed up, and I don't mean lapped, I mean passed up at any point in time, you were going to lose. You could not catch up. It was impossible. And I don't know why it was impossible. We played it again and again and again and again. Finally switched it down to regular difficulty. Normal. I can't remember if they had funny names or not. Normal difficulty. And it was still almost damn near impossible. Finally pulled it off. But it wasn't like that Dark Souls kind of impossible, or that like so hard it's good kind of impossible where it's you feel like you accomplished something. It was just annoying as shit because there was nothing I could figure out to do. And you can't do that thing that I tried, which was fuck with the other drivers, mess up their cars. Because if there's no drivers left, then I win by default, right? Not because the game would stop you. You can absolutely try that strategy. Except when you hit someone hard enough to make their wheels come off, you also are being hit hard enough to make your wheels come off. So you fuck up their car, it fucks up your car. You get to a point where your super up race car that's going like 100 miles an hour can only go 20 miles an hour because you have no goddamn tires. You're driving on rims. That doesn't work. Still impressive you're going 20, though. That, despite this being a remake and them addressing issues and trying to make it better and, you know, actually work in 2020, they didn't seem to change this at all. And I don't know if it's because it was so infamous that they had to keep it or what, but the race would seem to be just as bad because when looking it up, I had to see if it was just me being bad or what, and I wanted to look it up. So I had Joe look it up for me. And she was like, all right, Mafia race, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, make sure it's the definitive edition, so make sure nothing's messed up. She goes, oh, no, it says definitive edition 2020. And I'm like, oh. She goes, yeah, there's pages of it. The race is just as bad as it was in the original. That's an issue. That's a bit of an issue. And what sucks about that is it's not very far into the game. So if you're enjoying what you're playing and you get to that, it could absolutely piss you off so much that you turn the game off and never turn it back on. Because I thought about it. But I was able to get past it and get to the rest of the game, and I'm glad I did because the rest of the game is quite good. But there are so many hiccups here and there that it's not enjoyable all the way through. It's a 7 out of 10. Like, comparing it to the Avengers, which is how I'm going to compare everything now, because the Avengers is a game that I believe is good in spite of itself. The game's not finished, it's broken, and it's really hard to play because the thing is trying to die. But if you get through it, the story is great, the acting is great, and the parts of that game that are really, really, really good are some of the best in video games. The climax is incredible of that game. The ending of that game is amazing. It's spectacular. But because there are so many problems with it, it's only like a 6 because you're playing sometimes and you can't tell who you're playing as because everybody is like a blank slate. I'm not making that up. Sometimes you're in a level that hasn't loaded. Sometimes you're all the same character for whatever reason. It's really funny. Sometimes people don't have faces. Like, it's horrible shit. This game didn't have those problems. It had technical glitches that shouldn't exist, but it didn't have that type of problem. But it had another type of problem, which is it never really had those type of highs. It never had something so grand or great that made you go, oh, this excuses all that bad shit. No. It never reached those levels. The best of the levels were pretty good. And it was fun, and we kept playing for this. The story was good, but it's absolutely the weakest, or one of the weakest. Mafia 3 might be the weakest because of its performance. This definitely performs better than Mafia 3, but Mafia 3 has a great story. Just couldn't overcome its performance issues, at least for me. Can't wait to play Mafia 2, because I'm playing it playing it for the channel. But, yeah, like a 7, 8. It's a wonderful remake, but it doesn't go as far as it probably should have been. It's beautiful to look at. When it runs well, it runs well. Everything is made in great detail. But there are a lot of details that don't really mean anything. Like, all the cars have gas, and they can run out of gas. Played throughout the entire game, car never ran out of gas. So what's the point of that detail? And even on Classic, never ran out of gas. Never had a moment where I ran out of gas, had to get another car or go gas it up. The open world is empty, so it's only window dressing, which doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Using an open world to tell a linear story can work, and having an open world that's just there to be the world, instead of just being completely linear, can work. There have been plenty of games that I've played that have done this, and have worked. Not everything has to have side missions or shit to do. It can just be there to be pretty. And to give you enough room to maneuver through chases and whatnot. That can be fun. Unfortunately, I think it's just too empty. Like, I don't know how else to put it. It's just too empty, which is sad. But what are you gonna do? I don't know. I do recommend it. I don't necessarily. I didn't hate playing it. I look forward to playing it. Like, every time I need to make a video for it, I look forward to playing it. It was a good time. I was kind of hoping it would be better. And there are other games that came out at its time that still hold up better. And I enjoyed more, not only at the time, but now, having replayed some of them again. 2003 put out some very stellar games. So it's kind of sad to me that this one doesn't hold up as well as I thought it was going to. I was excited for it because I never played it. I was excited because I was hoping the remake was going to make it better, so I was going to get the best possible version. And I do think it is the best possible version, but it's just not as grand as I hoped. But it's still good. Still a good game. So if you like those kinds of games, if you like The Godfather and mob movies, which we around here, we do, it's good. But I'm kind of cool on it. I wish I was a lot higher on it. And maybe it's because if it had ended a little bit better. It does end in a big shootout, but it just doesn't I don't know. I didn't really have an attachment to the game. And it's not just because I played it for a video. I've had incredible attachments to games I've played for videos. Like The Last of Us fucking 2. Made videos in that entire game, and that was my first playthrough. And I had an attachment to every single one of those characters. So it's possible. Now, it's not a fair comparison, a game from 2003 to a game that came out 2020. And even though this is a remake that did come out 2020, it's still a remake of a game that came out 2003, and they didn't change a whole lot. But still, if I'm talking about just connections and maybe the barrier that is making a video, which that barrier is there, and you can miss stuff if you're concentrated on making a video. But games like The Last of Us have the ability to just smack me around and go, no, shut up, you're going to care. And I'm okay. Because if I'm not caring, I'm probably going to talk. If I'm not caring about the story, what's going on, I'm probably going to talk or do something. And even if I wasn't making a video, I would probably do that anyway, or pull out my phone or do whatever. This game definitely has that similar issue and kind of an ending stinger that comes out of nowhere. But yeah, that's my overdue review for Mafia the Definitive Edition. If you like these type of games, go out and buy it, go rent it, GameFly it, whatever, borrow it, however you can. It's kind of a soft recommendation. But anyway, I will see y'all next time for either Alan Wake, which will be a way overdue review, or Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which is why don't they just call it Cold War? Whichever one I finish first. Though I've played Alan Wake before, this will be the first time I've played it in a very long time. But I figure that every game I beat, might as well do a review for it. And a Call of Duty, since I'm playing all of it, multiplayer, zombies, and the campaign, we're doing the videos in the campaign. I'm going to have a pretty extensive review in it. And I've been playing Call of Duty since the very first one, so I have a pretty good knowledge on Call of Duty, especially in comparison. Only problem is I've had a gap. So the last one I played was World War II, so there's been a few since then. But yeah, I will see y'all then.